a tall lady. Here in the back?
George back!
Alright. The story's called Suburbia and the Art of War. Halloween, 1991. I'm in first grade. We live in Rochester Hills, Michigan. The majority of my classmates live in gated communities and blow their noses into $100 bills. October 31st approaches, and talk of costume choice abounds. The school is abuzz. The morning announcements had brought us the news that this year we would have a Halloween parade around the school with a costume contest to follow, and I was determined to stand out from the sea of Disney princesses. This was going to be my year. The year that I finally convinced my spendthrift mother to get me a store-bought costume instead of something from our dress-up bin, the contents of which included ancient relics of Halloween's past. Now, a brief interlude on Victoria Rose. Some mothers bring orange slices and granola bars to soccer practices and drive SUVs. Some mothers pour over better homes and gardens and redecorate the family room, scrapbooking as they go. My mother served rice cakes with carrot sticks before hustling us off to our summer reading programs in our hand-me-downs.
Nice.
I was, and remain to this day, one of those kids. You say sheltered and overprotected, I say, you are absolutely right. Her germophobia, artfully combined with equal parts health nut and overachiever, left me to play math blasters on our PC when I pined for a second game there.
Yeah.
As vacationing in the woods. When I pined for such exotic places as the resorts of Cancun, where I would return beautifully tanned and reveling in the only time it is acceptable for a white girl to have heated cornrows. I don't know how we would have gone to Cancun, though. My mother wouldn't have been able to bring a jug of bleach she would tote around on our very rare motel stops. Scrubbing down the bathtub and sinks vigorously while we waited to go to the beach, it was just another of her endearing idiosyncrasies. The holy grail of my costume quest was embodied in a Halloween USA Dracula outfit, replete with swooping cape, brooch, fangs, fake blood, and a wooden staff. I since checked the film Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Twilight, Buffy, and other iterations of the vampire theme, and none of them carry a wooden staff. In fact, why would they? You sharpen the end of that, you have one-way ticket to vampire oblivion. In retrospect, it had probably fallen across the aisle from the nativity costume selections. I would be Dracula with frankincense and myrrh, a beautiful, disastrous metaphor yet unrealized by my narrow-minded classmates. Never mind that my mother had crafted our Halloween costumes all by hand for the last 7 years of my existence. In her frugal benevolence, she pulled off a tiger and a bear from repurposed animal print sheets, a young Highlander from old doilies and tartan tablecloth, had hand-sewn a Clifford the Big Red Dog headdress that would have suffocated a less resilient child, and had forced upon either me or my older sister Marla a tattered gypsy costume from her own childhood collection, circa 1962. Never mind that the particular costume of my county was A, ridiculously overpriced, B, contained makeup, blood, and fangs that could be, oh, horror, shared amongst germ-carrying classmates, and was likely composed of materials that would inevitably give the wearer cancer of the face. Never mind that Mrs. Fentner, my teacher, was on the costume judging panel, and she'd given me a pink slip for cutting Jennifer Peterson's blonde locks clean off with safety scissors the week before, as I channeled my best Edward Scissorhands. The odds were stacked against me, but I would prevail. My friend Thomas was busy prepping his own costume. He'd already drawn the elaborate blueprints for the most complicated astronaut suit Brooklyn's elementary would ever lay eyes on. Tommy and I had sealed our friendship when he was taunted off the soccer field for being a trailer park kid. I handed him my best hyper-colored Ford Bronco micro machine, and it was like the Geneva Convention. We were compatriots from then on. 1 week out from the Halloween parade, I felt I had distanced myself enough from the great haircut incident of '91 to possibly be off vendor shit list in order that her moral judgment on the costume panel not be clouded by the short lapse of my own judgment. That left me to craft an airtight defense, persuading the only person, my mother, that stood between me and Halloween glory. I found my Dracula costume and Halloween USA flyer, circled it, and rehearsed my deposition. I had $15 of savings from doing chores around the house that I could contribute to the total. At $1 a week, that was essentially slave labor, but where is Amnesty International when you said it? The materials listed in the costume were allegedly non-toxic, and I would staunchly refuse any classmate that wanted to try out the fangs of the costume look. The brooch could potentially be a choking hazard. I had to concede that point, but if worn on a necklace, the object could not tragically be lodged in one's throat. I folded the flyer neatly beside my plate as dinner began one evening. Topics of conversation included Mr. Snuffles, the new addition to Marla's stuffed animal collection, a possible visit to the cider mill this weekend if we got our science projects done, and my dad's day at work. I patiently awaited my chance. I knew I would have one opportunity before my request was shot down like a tax-type proposal at the Republican National Convention. So I nonchalantly introduced the idea of a Halloween parade. Oh, that's nice, from my mother. Pass the peas. And I said that I was thinking about what costume I might like to wear. Oh, there are plenty of options in the closet downstairs, so you can take your elbows off the table. And then I panicked. In a rush, I threw the flyer down on the table in front of my mother, and I blurted, "But there's this girl costume at Halloween USA, it's got a cape and fangs and brooch and brooms down, can I get a piece?" My mother picked up the flyer and examined it carefully. I could feel that cape around my shoulders already. Thought about how I would apply the fake blood so it gushed over my chin, and with the simple tilt of her head towards the opposite end of the table, hope first, and a sense of absolute doom washed over me. I'd been so fixated on placating my mother's own neurotic concerns that I had completely failed to recognize the sneak attack of my father. This would all become crystal clear to me years later when I read The Art of War. There is a particular stratagem that I had overlooked. It reads, "Make a sound in the east, then strike in the west." Deception is everything, especially in good parenting. It was over. Dad, without looking up from his plate, uttered those dreaded words I felt were programmed into all Midwestern fathers. The skill that's wired in right behind keeping the thermostat at 55 degrees. You know what I'm talking about. "Save your money," he said, and dismissed the entire issue in 1.5 seconds. Now, I used to think the way my parents met was over romantic dinners of ramen, cutting coupons over top of interest rates. Penny pinching is an intoxicating aphrodisiac, apparently. "Save your money," the phrase which followed every sentence Marla and I ever began with, "You know, I'd really like to save your money. I'd really like that new toothbrush, save your money. I'd really like a pony, save your money. A Barbie, save your money. A tractor keeper, save your money. Mediterranean to Somalia, save your money." Defeated. It was back to the humiliating bag of costumes in the downstairs closet. When you're a kid surrounded by trust fund babies, you don't see the love oozing out of a handmade Halloween costume. You just see that you've fallen into the bucket of have-nots, and you make do, learning later that it's not the stuff at all that matters in your life. That year I ended up improvising. I took an old black turtleneck, drew a rib cage on it with Elmer's glue, attacked it with sparkly green glitter, saved my money for a glow-in-the-dark, non-toxic skeleton mask that was in the bargain bin at Target, and held my head high while we paraded the school grounds. Mrs. Fender, turns out, had not yet forgiven me for the pink slip. She wore the best costume to Tommy for his carefully constructed astronaut, and one to Jennifer Peters for her store-bought Cinderella.